A kingdom's hope. Simbi's heart pounded as she and Ali hurried through the palace halls. The sound of their footsteps echoed in the empty corridors, a stark contrast to the chaos outside. The magic Azizi had unleashed still hung in the air, a dark, oppressive presence that seemed to suffocate everything it touched. Every step they took brought them closer to the heart of the kingdom, where the fate of the people would be decided. "We need to get to the people, Ali," Simbi said, her voice filled with determination. "We can't fight this battle alone. Azizi's power is too strong." Ali nodded, his grip tightening on his sword. "We'll rally them. The people won't stand for this. We can still win, Simbi. We have to." Simbi turned her gaze toward the city beyond the palace walls. The once thriving kingdom now lay in a state of disarray. The rebellion had brought hope, but Azizi's betrayal had stolen it away. The people of the kingdom were lost, confused and scattered, and the shadow of Azizi's dark magic hung over them. "We'll need to move quickly," Simbi continued. "We have to reach the town square. It's the heart of the kingdom, and if we can't rally the people there, we'll have lost everything." They reached the palace gates, where a few scattered rebels waited, their faces grim and weary from the battle. They had managed to fight back Azizi's royal guards, but the damage had already been done. Azizi had taken control of the throne room, and his magic was slowly creeping through the kingdom, poisoning everything it touched. "Simbi," one of the rebels called out as they approached. "We've lost contact with the other villages. What should we do?" Simbi's face tightened with resolve. "We need to unite the people. The rebellion is not just a few fighters, it's the entire kingdom. If we can rally them, we can defeat Azizi." Ali stepped forward, his voice calm but commanding. "We'll spread the word. Gather everyone in the town square. Simbi will speak to them. We'll remind them of who they are, and we'll show them what they're fighting for." Simbi took a deep breath, her nerves momentarily flaring. Speaking to the people was never easy, especially when they were so divided. But she had no choice. She had to inspire them, to remind them of their strength. If the kingdom was going to stand, it had to be with the people, not just the rebels. The rebels set off immediately, spreading the word throughout the city and beyond. Simbi and Ali made their way to the town square, where a few brave souls had already gathered. As they walked through the streets, Simbi's eyes scanned the faces of the people. Some were scared, some angry, and others looked completely lost. There was no unity, just fear and confusion. As they approached the square, the crowd grew. More and more people arrived, each face a reflection of the chaos that had gripped the kingdom. Simbi could see the uncertainty in their eyes. The rebellion had failed to stop Azizi. The magic had turned everything into a nightmare. Yet, beneath the fear, there was something else, the spark of hope. The kingdom was not yet lost, but they needed someone to lead them. Simbi stepped up onto a makeshift stage, her heart pounding in her chest. Ali stood beside her, his hand resting on the hilt of his sword. The crowd grew silent, their eyes fixed on her. Simbi's breath caught in her throat as she prepared to speak. She had to reach them. She had to make them believe that the fight was still worth it. She had to show them that there was hope, even in the face of Azizi's darkness. "My people," she began, her voice steady, though every part of her was shaking. "I know many of you are afraid. You've seen what Azizi has done. You've seen the destruction he's caused. You've lost your families, your homes, your faith. But I am here to tell you that we have not lost. Not yet." The crowd murmured, some voices skeptical, others hopeful. Simbi pushed through the doubt, her eyes scanning the crowd for any sign of belief. "Azizi may have taken the throne. He may have used his magic to control us, to twist our hearts and minds, but we are stronger than his darkness. We are a kingdom built on love, on hope, and on the strength of our people. We cannot let fear rule us." Her voice grew stronger as she spoke, gaining confidence with each word. "We are not weak. We are not powerless. The rebellion was never about a few soldiers. It was about you. It was about the farmers who work in the fields, the builders who raise our homes, the mothers who care for their children. It was about the people who dream of a better future. We are the kingdom, and we will take it back." Ali stepped forward, his voice joining hers. "Simbi speaks the truth. This is not just about us, it's about all of you. We need you to stand with us. Azizi's power may seem unbreakable, but together we are stronger than any magic." Simbi felt the energy in the square shift. The fear in the eyes of the people began to change, replaced by a flicker of hope. The murmurs grew louder, and more people began to step forward, joining the growing crowd. "We will fight for our kingdom," Simbi continued, her voice filled with conviction. "We will fight for our families, for our homes, for the future. Together we can defeat Azizi. Together we can reclaim what is rightfully ours. Who will stand with us?" The answer came not in words, but in action. One by one, the people stepped forward. Farmers, tradespeople, children, and elders, they all raised their voices in unison, their resolve solidifying. It wasn't just the rebellion anymore, it was the entire kingdom, united in a common cause. Simbi felt her heart swell with pride and hope. This was what she had been fighting for all along. This was the kingdom she had always believed in. The kingdom of the people. They had heard her call, and they were answering. The moment was electric, the energy palpable, but even as the people rallied around her, Simbi knew they had a long way to go. The real battle was just beginning, and Azizi was not going to give up his throne without a fight. But with the people behind her, with their hearts and strength united, Simbi knew they had a chance. Together, they could stand against the darkness. Together, they could defeat the forces that threatened to tear them apart. The fight for the kingdom was far from over. In fact, it had only just begun. The tide turns. With the people of the kingdom now united in purpose, Simbi and the rebels gathered their forces for the next stage of the fight. They knew that Azizi wouldn't back down easily. His grip on the throne was tight, and his magic was a formidable weapon. But Simbi had something he didn't. An army of the kingdom's people, fighting not just for a cause, but for their future. The journey ahead was long, but Simbi's heart was full. They were ready for whatever came next. The calm before the storm. The morning after the rally, the kingdom seemed quieter, almost expectant. The townspeople, once filled with fear and confusion, now moved with purpose. The market square was bustling with activity as vendors returned to their stalls, trading goods, while the fields were alive with workers preparing for the battle ahead. Simbi had spoken to the people, and now they were no longer divided. They were one. Simbi and Ali walked through the town square, taking in the sight of the renewed energy. The rebellion had gained traction, but they knew it was only the beginning. Azizi's hold on the throne was not easily shaken. The dark magic that he wielded had seeped into the very foundations of the kingdom, and breaking it would require more than just numbers. "We have a long way to go," Ali said, his voice low. "But at least now we have hope." Simbi nodded, her eyes scanning the horizon. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting a soft golden light over the land. There was something almost peaceful about the morning, but Simbi knew it was only the calm before the storm. Azizi would not stand idly by while his power was challenged. "We need to prepare," she said, her voice steady. "Azizi won't wait much longer to strike back. We need to gather our forces, secure our allies, and prepare for the battle ahead." Ali looked at her, his expression serious. "And we need to find a way to counter his magic. If we don't, we'll be fighting with one hand tied behind our backs." Simbi sighed, feeling the weight of the responsibility on her shoulders. "I know, but where do we even begin? We don't have the resources Azizi does. He's had years to build his power, to master his magic." Ali paused, his brow furrowing as he thought. "There's one person who might be able to help us. An old mage who lives beyond the mountains. She's the last of her kind, a master of ancient magic. They say she can control the elements themselves." Simbi raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "A mage? Why haven't we heard of her before?" "She's reclusive," Ali explained. "She lives alone, away from the kingdom. Many believe she's just a legend, but I know she's real. I've heard stories about her since I was a child. She's said to be the key to defeating dark magic." Simbi felt a glimmer of hope. "If we can find her, perhaps we have a chance. But we'll need to act fast. If Azizi knows we're planning something, he'll stop at nothing to crush us." Ali nodded. "I'll gather a small group to search for her. If she's as powerful as they say, she could be the ally we need." Simbi's heart lightened at the thought of the mage's help. But the moment of peace didn't last long. A messenger came running toward them, his face pale and strained. "Simbi, Ali," he called breathlessly, The royal guards. They've been spotted near the outskirts of the town. They're coming this way. Simbi's heart sank. How many? Enough to overwhelm us if we don't act fast, the messenger replied. Simbi and Ali exchanged a brief glance, both of them knowing what had to be done. There was no time to wait for reinforcements. They had to protect the town and prevent Azizi from gaining ground. Get the people to safety, Simbi commanded. We'll hold them off. Ali's eyes narrowed. We can't face them alone. We won't be alone, Simbi replied, her voice firm. We have the people with us now. If they've found their courage, they'll fight for their homes. We can't back down. Within minutes, the rebels and townspeople gathered their weapons and positioned themselves around the town's perimeter. Simbi and Ali stood at the front, their swords drawn, ready for the coming battle. The royal guards were on their way, but Simbi could feel the energy in the air. This time it was different. The people were ready. They were no longer afraid. The sound of marching footsteps grew louder, and soon the first line of royal guards appeared on the horizon. Their polished armor gleamed in the early morning light, a stark contrast to the ragtag group of rebels and townspeople standing in defense. Azizi's forces were formidable, but Simbi had no intention of backing down. She lifted her sword high, and the battle cry rang out, echoing across the valley. The first clash was swift. The royal guards charged, but the rebels fought with a fury born of desperation. Simbi's heart raced as she moved through the chaos, her sword flashing with each strike. Ali was by her side, cutting down any guard that came too close. The people fought bravely, though many were untrained, but their hearts were strong, and they fought for their homes, for their families, and for the future of the kingdom. Each blow they struck was a defiance against the darkness that Azizi had tried to impose on them. Simbi could feel the tension building. The guards were relentless, but so were the people. The battle raged on, with neither side giving ground. Simbi's muscles ached, but she refused to stop. The kingdom was depending on them. As the battle reached its peak, a sudden, deafening roar shook the ground. Simbi froze, her eyes widening as the sky above seemed to darken, clouds swirling ominously. A figure appeared in the distance, a rider on horseback, cloaked in black, leading a group of soldiers. It was Azizi. He had come to crush them himself. Simbi's heart skipped a beat. This was it. The true battle for the kingdom had begun. The Duel of Wills. Simbi stood tall, her sword gleaming in the darkened light, as Azizi dismounted from his horse. The air around them seemed thick with tension, and the earth beneath Simbi's feet felt like it was pulsing with the weight of Azizi's dark magic. His glowing eyes fixed on her, a cold, calculating look in his gaze. You think you can stop me? Azizi's voice was a low, menacing growl. You and your ragtag group of rebels? You've failed already, Simbi. The kingdom belongs to me. It always has. Simbi's heart thundered in her chest, but she stood firm. She couldn't back down now, not after everything they had fought for. She was no longer the princess trapped by palace walls. She was the leader of the kingdom's people. I am not just fighting for myself, Azizi, Simbi said, her voice unwavering. I'm fighting for the people, for everyone who believes in a better future. You may have taken control of the throne, but you've forgotten what it means to rule with the heart of the people. Azizi's lips curled into a twisted smile. The people, they are weak. They follow blindly, like sheep. Power is not about the people, Simbi. It's about control. And that is why I will rule forever. With a sudden, swift motion, Azizi raised his hand, and the dark magic around him intensified. The sky above swirled into a violent storm, the clouds thick with swirling blackness. Thunder rumbled, and the very ground beneath Simbi's feet seemed to tremble. Azizi's power was overwhelming, and Simbi could feel it seeping into her bones, threatening to break her resolve. But she would not falter. Simbi raised her sword, calling on the strength of the people she had united. She had seen their courage, their hope, and their determination. She drew on that power now, feeling it surge through her like a fire. She was not alone in this fight. Azizi's voice echoed in her mind, taunting her. You cannot fight me, Simbi. Your magic is nothing compared to mine. You will bow to me just like everyone else. Simbi's grip tightened on her sword. I will never bow to you. With a swift movement, Azizi unleashed a blast of dark energy, sending it towards Simbi with the force of a storm. The air itself seemed to bend around the blast, and the ground shook as it sped toward her. Simbi reacted quickly, raising her sword in a defensive position, channeling all of her strength into it. The blade glowed with a faint, golden light as the two forces collided. For a moment, time seemed to stop. The sound of the blast and Simbi's sword clashing filled the air, echoing across the battlefield. The ground beneath Simbi's feet cracked, and she was pushed back, her body strained by the power of Azizi's attack, but she refused to fall. She planted her feet firmly, her sword still raised, her heart set on one goal: victory. Azizi's mocking laughter echoed around her. "You are weak, Simbi. You cannot withstand me." Simbi's breath was ragged, but her spirit remained unbroken. She knew she could not defeat Azizi through sheer force alone. His dark magic was too powerful, and he was too skilled. But there was something Azizi didn't understand: the power of love, the power of unity. Simbi closed her eyes, feeling the connection between herself and the people who had fought beside her. The bond between them was stronger than any magic Azizi could conjure. It was the power of hope, of community, of a kingdom united for a common cause. In that moment, Simbi understood. She wasn't just fighting for the kingdom, she was fighting for the very essence of who they were, people who valued life, love, and freedom above all else. With newfound determination, Simbi stepped forward, meeting Azizi's dark magic head-on. The air shimmered as her sword began to glow brighter, fueled by the collective strength of the kingdom's people. She could feel their will, their courage, and their hope flowing through her like a river, empowering her to stand against the storm. Azizi's expression faltered for a moment, his eyes widening in disbelief. "What is this? How are you?" Simbi didn't give him time to finish. She lunged forward, her sword cutting through the air with a blinding flash of light. The blade met Azizi's dark magic with a deafening crack, and the ground beneath them shuddered. Azizi staggered back, his hands raised in a futile attempt to ward off the force of Simbi's strike. "You may have magic," Simbi said, her voice steady and strong. "But you do not have the heart of the kingdom, and that is something you will never take." Azizi's eyes burned with fury as he regained his footing. "You think you've won? This is just the beginning, Simbi. You cannot defeat me. I will destroy you all." Simbi narrowed her eyes. "Then come, Azizi, show me what you've got." Azizi raised his arms once more, summoning a wave of dark energy that surged towards Simbi, but this time she was ready. She called on the strength of the people again, her sword glowing with the power of unity. As the dark energy collided with her blade, it exploded in a burst of light, scattering the magic in every direction. Simbi stood firm, her sword crackling with golden energy. "It's over, Azizi. The kingdom will no longer live in fear." Azizi growled, his face contorted in rage. "You cannot destroy me. You are just a child playing at war." Simbi's eyes locked onto his, unwavering. "I am the future of this kingdom, and you are nothing but a shadow." The final battle had begun, and Simbi knew that the outcome would shape the future of the kingdom. But she also knew that she was not alone. The people stood with her, and together they would face whatever came next. The storm intensified, the dark magic swirling around them like a violent tempest. But Simbi stood resolute, ready to face whatever challenge Azizi threw her way. The battle for the kingdom's soul was far from over, and the road ahead was uncertain. But with the people united, Simbi knew they could overcome any obstacle. The heart of the storm. The clash between Simbi and Azizi had reached its peak. The sky above them was a dark canvas of swirling clouds, as if the very heavens themselves were torn by the battle. Thunder rumbled across the valley, but Simbi remained unfazed, her sword glowing with a golden light that seemed to push back the encroaching shadows. Azizi's magic surged around him like a storm, but Simbi's resolve was unwavering. "You fight like a child," Azizi spat, his eyes glowing with fury. "Do you truly believe the power of love and unity can defeat me? I have spent years mastering dark magic. What you have is nothing compared to my might." Simbi stood tall, her sword raised in defiance. The energy from the people, their hopes, their dreams, their courage, flowed through her like a tide. She had no magic like Azizi, no dark forces to bend to her will. But what she had was far greater, the strength of a kingdom united. "You are wrong, Azizi," Simbi said, her voice calm but filled with power. "Love is stronger than fear. Unity is stronger than control. The people no longer fear you, and that is something you will never understand." Azizi snarled, his hands glowing with dark magic as he raised them toward the sky. The storm above them intensified, lightning crackling, and the wind howled. The very earth seemed to tremble under the weight of his fury. "You think I will be defeated by mere words? You think that your sword will stand against the forces I control?" "I don't need magic to defeat you," Simbi said, her eyes never leaving his. "I have something far more powerful." With a sudden motion, she lunged forward, her sword cutting through the air with a swift, determined arc. Azizi responded with a blast of shadow energy, but Simbi was too quick, dodging to the side. Her sword connected with the edge of his dark magic, sending sparks flying into the air. The force of their collision shook the ground beneath them, and Simbi's heart pounded in her chest. She could feel the tension building, the pressure of the battle weighing heavily on her. She knew this wasn't just a fight for her kingdom, it was a fight for everything she believed in. Azizi staggered back, clearly surprised by the strength of Simbi's resistance. He had underestimated her, just as he had underestimated the people she fought for. Simbi's confidence grew as she saw the flicker of doubt in his eyes. But Azizi was not one to give up easily. He clenched his fists, and the darkness around him intensified, a swirling vortex of shadow that threatened to consume everything in its path. The storm above them roared as the dark magic surged forward, crashing towards Simbi like a tidal wave. Simbi didn't hesitate. She called on the strength of her ancestors, the wisdom of those who had fought for the kingdom long before her. She called on the strength of the people who had risen up against tyranny. The sword in her hand blazed with a radiant light, glowing brighter and brighter until it seemed to illuminate the very air around her. With a fierce battle cry, Simbi charged forward, her sword cutting through the air, slashing through the dark magic like a blade through cloth. The energy around her rippled and crackled as she pushed through Azizi's assault. Every swing of her sword was an affirmation of her resolve, an expression of the love and unity she held in her heart for the kingdom. Azizi's eyes widened in disbelief as the light from Simbi's sword grew brighter, engulfing the dark magic he had summoned. The storm above began to dissipate, the winds calming, the clouds parting, as if the very world was reacting to Simbi's power. "No, this cannot be," Azizi shouted, his voice filled with panic. Simbi stepped forward, unwavering. "It's over, Azizi. Your reign of fear ends now." Azizi, realizing his magic was no match for Simbi's strength, took a step back, his dark power faltering. He clenched his fists, his face contorted in fury and desperation. "You cannot destroy me," he growled. "I am the blood of kings. I am the shadow of the throne." Simbi raised her sword, her heart steady, her resolve unshaken. "You are nothing but a shadow now, Azizi, and shadows vanish in the light." With one final, decisive movement, Simbi struck. Her sword pierced through Azizi's dark magic, cutting through the darkness like a beam of light. The explosion of energy was blinding, a flash so bright it illuminated the entire battlefield. The air trembled, and the ground shook beneath their feet. For a moment, everything was still. Then, slowly, the light began to fade, and the storm above them dissipated. The oppressive darkness that had plagued the kingdom for so long lifted, and a sense of peace began to settle over the land. Simbi lowered her sword, breathing heavily, as the last remnants of Azizi's magic crumbled away. Azizi, the Dark Prince, stood before her, his form flickering as if the very magic that had sustained him was now unraveling. His eyes were wide with shock, but there was no longer any strength in them. The darkness had consumed him, and now it was leaving him like a fading echo. "You," Azizi began, his voice weak and hollow. "You cannot." Simbi stepped forward, her expression resolute. "I have already defeated you, Azizi. Your reign is over." Azizi's body began to dissolve into shadows, his form collapsing into nothingness. His last words were lost in the wind, swallowed by the very magic that had once given him power. And with his disappearance, the kingdom was free. The air around Simbi seemed to clear, and the heavy weight that had hung over her heart lifted. She stood there, her sword in hand, as the kingdom around her began to awaken from the nightmare that had gripped it for so long. But there was no time to rest. The battle was not truly over. There was still much to be done. The people would need to rebuild, to heal, and to unite once more. Simbi had led them to victory, but now she had to lead them into a new era. Ali, who had been fighting alongside the townspeople, came running toward her, his face filled with relief. "Simbi, you did it! You really did it!" Simbi smiled, her heart swelling with pride. "We did it, Ali. All of us. Together." But as the two of them stood there, surrounded by the people they had fought for, Simbi couldn't help but feel that the battle was far from over. Azizi may have fallen, but his influence, his dark magic, had left scars on the kingdom. The people needed healing, and Simbi knew that the hardest part was yet to come. The road to peace would be long, and there would be many challenges ahead. But, with Ali by her side and the kingdom united, Simbi was ready to face whatever came next. The adventure was far from over. I really hope you found this video entertaining. If you did, please show some love by giving it a like. I'd also love to hear your thoughts and feedback in the comments section. And most importantly, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click that notification bell, so you're the first to know when I upload new content. I'm always creating new videos, and I wouldn't want you to miss out. Thanks for watching.